Branson, when I signed up to become a podcaster, I didn't count on being happy. Tell me it's okay, Branson.
It's gonna be okay.
That's a quote from the movie in case you didn't get the joke.
I did get it. I couldn't remember what was actually said.
Yeah, that's the line. We'll get into
good.
that line.
Okay, good.
Welcome to Ben and Bran See a Movie, the show where Ben and Bran see a movie. We're
The
really
show with
on
hot
Bran
questions and even hotter answers.
Hotter guest.
Hotter wings.
Hotter wings, hotter guest.
The guest this time is the cat. She's chilling over there on the bed.
Nice.
She's all tuckered out.
Oh, she's all sleepy. She's a sleepy cat. Branson.
Sleepy cat. Yes.
We're doing Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
We're doing Batman Mask of the Phantasm. It's such an interesting one that my camera totally is not focused on me.
Yeah, it's fine.
I was trying to find
Batman
in the frame. There we go. Now I'm there.
Well, we could call it Ben and Bran do Batman see Mask of the Phantasm, like that Beavis and Butthead movie.
Oh. Oh my goodness.
Referencers are a little too tired. See, I'm a little tired right now. I'll be fully honest.
Yeah.
I wake up now every day for work at 5 a.m. So
at 5?
Yeah, I get up about 5:15. So I have
rough.
a pretty long weekdays, and I'm still getting adjusted to it.
Yeah.
And also, on the way back from work today, dude, drove me insane. There was this guy who was literally, I had to slow down because someone was trying to turn into their entrance for their home.
Uh-huh.
The guy just starts behind me, just starts honking at me. And I'm like, dude. Yeah, I'm like, what are we going to do here? And I kid you not, 2 blocks later, he has to do the same thing for a pedestrian. Just has to slow down really abruptly, let this person pass so he can take a right to get onto his street.
Uh-huh.
It took everything in my will not to just sit there blaring the horn like he did, because I was stuck behind him just like he was. I'm like, you...
Man, that was an exercise. That was an exercise in you practicing grace.
It wasn't grace in that moment. It was just me, I'm like, I gotta get home to record the podcast. Had I been in a worse mood, I would have just sat there honking the horn.
But you didn't this time. You were the bigger man.
This time, I am the bigger man in this case.
Good job. I'm proud of you.
So, Branson, why are we talking Batman Mask of the Phantasm today?
Frankly, I have no clue.
You don't know?
No.
You don't remember this in our production meeting?
No.
We tried tying it into a movie.
Our production meeting was 3 texts. I know.
No, it was at Jesse and Jasmine's reception.
Oh, freaking! I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, my guy.
The reason we decided to do this movie is because when we're trying to tie it in, I looked at this week's release calendar, and I'm like, what the heck do we do? Do we do something our own? And then I'm like, okay, is there anything I can grapple with? And I'm like, okay, DC League of Superpets comes out with Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, John Krasinski, Keanu Reeves.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm like, let's do that. And I'm like, so what do we do on it? So you and I had a brief discussion on which movie of DC's animated would we do?
This is coming back to me. I suggested we watch the entirety of the TV show Crypto the Superdog.
Yes.
I don't think you flew for that.
Well, the agreement with our contractors who hire us out to talk movies and TV shows. If we do Crypto the Superdog, it's minimum 2 hours per episode.
Yeah,
and
if we don't do that, they break our knees.
Yeah, and we just didn't have
with a baseball bat
to do it.
No,
yeah. So we were debating between a few others. I remember at one point the Adam West animated movies were brought up, which then brought up the discussion: are straight to DVD movies? Do we cover those on these shows? It was a question we had never actually dealt with.
That's a good question. That'd be a fun little series to do straight to DVD.
I was trying to think
of movies.
I was thinking of all the movies we've covered, and I'm like, there's some that didn't really have a theatrical release. I would bet in Sacramento they did not have a theatrical release. There's some movies that just flopped at the box office that then ended up becoming fan favorite films, cult classics, whatever. We didn't have a movie that was just straight up didn't have a theatrical run.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was like pretty hesitant on choosing that movie, even though I like, Adam West a lot. And then ultimately, I think you and I were talking about it, and I kind of threw out the suggestion. I'm like, have you seen Mask of the Phantasm based on the original series? And from there on, we were like, let's do that movie. And also, it really helps when the movie's only 75 minutes.
That does help. Yeah,
that's a huge selling point in a movie when you do weekly.
We also could have done Scooby-Doo and Batman: The Brave and the Bold.
Not a theatrical release again.
Yeah, exactly. See, it still hits in that same criteria.
That's a great. That's a great idea for a future like March Madness, like bracket.
All the Scooby-Doo movies?
No.
Oh,
not that at all.
Oh,
not that at all.
I was going to
say like straight to DVD Disney movies, like Cinderella 2, Peter Pan 2, Return to Neverland, Lion King, Simba's Pride, Lion King 1.5, all those movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, maybe that's a good series. We might have to. Let's remember that.
Well, yeah, we need to
put that in the production.
Keep that in our
intern.
Okay,
intern. Write that down.
What's our intern's name?
Intern. Did you bother to learn his name? Did you bother to learn his name?
That's very true. He doesn't even have a. He's just a number.
Yeah.
0686. Write that down. I don't know why that was the first number that came to my
every
head.
week just changing it. Intern 7. You guys went through 6 interns in 1 week.
My thought was like clone trooper numbers.
Oh, that's not bad.
CTO 845. Yeah.
Echo. Call them by their call signs. That would be giving them too much respect. We don't pay well here.
99, and then we can call him Bad Batcher if he screws something up.
That's not bad. I like that at all. I like that a lot, actually. But yeah, so we decided Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Branson, before we get into the conversation, we had Comic-Con this weekend. It was in San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, I forgot about Comic-Con.
Neither you and I were there for press. Nope. We were not invited, to make that clear.
No. We couldn't clear our schedules anyway, so,
Yeah, it was going to be a rough weekend for us. I mean, like, had they asked us to do Hall H, the Marvel Studios panel, of course, begrudgingly, we probably would have said yes. Would have been hard for us, like,
yeah.
Who wants to just sit up there, talk with celebrities, talk with some of your favorite actors, directors, superheroes about a franchise you really love? Like, who just has the time for that?
Frankly, it's for nerds.
Yeah, frankly, it's for losers. Mm-hmm. It's for dweebs, virgins, losers. Did I say dweebs already?
Mm-hmm. And virgins.
And virgins again. But yeah, we're more into the sophisticated stuff, like
Monty Python right there behind you.
When you look at all the Star Wars on your back shelf. But yeah, so anyway, the reason I'm bringing up Comic-Con, one is because obviously we're talking a superhero movie today. One that has a very impactful just meaning to the nerd community in general, of which I think we can both begrudgingly say that we are fans of, probably to the chagrin of many of our friends, former loves, interests, and for you, wife.
Yeah. That we're fans of superheroes?
That we're just nerds.
Oh, yeah. I'm
sure it's come up. It's come up for me. It's come up for you, I'm sure.
She doesn't mind too much.
Yeah, sure. That's what she tells you.
Just a little bit. Sometimes it takes some twisting of the arm, but you should be like, yeah. Okay.
I was shocked when she told me she watched Kenobi with you, and that
really?
She liked it.
She said that she enjoyed most of the Star Wars shows. She watched every Marvel show that I watched. We watched together.
See, Marvel I knew was a little bit more her jam. I knew she liked a handful of those movies.
Mm-hmm. Slightly
Star
less.
Wars, like I knew she'd seen some. I didn't see her investing in like.
I still have yet
like to... Baby Yoda made sense. The Mandalorian right. Baby Yoda, like that was such a huge phenomenon.
Well, the child is a good I guess, Trojan horse to get somebody into Star Wars. It's like a cute green child, and then inside it's all of the movies and the Clone Wars and Rebels and all the offshoot shows that Disney's making now.
Yeah, I know. That's like I said, when she told me she saw it, then she also emphasized the point where she's like, I love little Leia. I'm like,
Yes.
that's the Trojan horse. That's the
Yeah,
Trojan horse
little
for people
Leia
who
was
maybe wouldn't be fully invested in the prequel stuff that you and I were geeking out about.
very true. Yeah, I still
Which
have yet to get all the movies. I still have yet to get her to watch those, but I'm slowly wearing her down.
you're still 8 for 9, right?
I'm still 8 for 9. I still don't.
We're gonna have to break that this year on the podcast.
I know it's so. I don't. I've
been
can't
trying
bring
to
myself.
like it. I've been like brainstorming. I have some stuff for you off air when we're talking about it. I've been brainstorming some ideas for like either the next March Madness or mini series like that we could do in the future at some point. And I'm like, every time I'm like, do we just have to do all 9 Star Wars movies?
We might have to.
We might just have to. I know we've done 2, but like even
we
that,
have.
like,
yeah, you're
but
right.
even that, like, do we want to go back and like actually fully like break them down, like almost like an hour for like each hour of the movie?
Well, we'd have to have Josh back on for that. I feel like
come on around a few times.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's a deep dive. But anyway, what I was saying about Comic-Con, to get back to my original point, side tangent. Comic-Con was obviously a big thing this week. It had a lot of news from DC, specifically the Shazam trailer and Black Adam, which Black Adam looks, to my surprise, quite good. It's very much to my surprise that it looks like quite a competently made movie, and one that actually is quite visually interesting. But no, specifically, I wanted to move over to the Marvel side of it, which I get we're talking DC today, but the trailer, because there was a ton of announcements. I did a whole video on it breaking down like the 20 announcements Marvel made between Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, they had a lot.
They had a lot. They had new Avengers movies, the Kang Dynasty, first look at Jonathan Majors as Kang, new stuff on the series, Loki Season 2, Daredevil, Born Again, all that stuff, Marvel Zombies, X-Men. But the one that when I watched it, it's the last one they like ended with, that actually like emotionally
and one more thing.
Yeah, sorry, go for it.
No, that's the...
No.
Yeah. I was quoting like the Nintendo Directs where they're like, oh, and one more thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like the biggest release that they do.
Yeah. There was one thing, like, out of all of it, I'm like, yeah, these are really good announcements. Some of them I'm more excited for than others. And then they showed the Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer. I will fully say, and I know you just saw it right before we came on air.
Yes, very fresh.
I will say I saw it live on when I was doing my video. I did the trailer reaction, like, you know, watching it for the first time. That is one of the few trailers that genuinely like got me, like just straight up, like on an emotional level.
Mm-hmm.
I was connected with that movie fully.
Really?
That movie went from a movie that I was so scared about coming out. Just like, how do you do this with Chadwick on?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you do this movie if Black Panther is like no longer with us?
Right.
And like, who can replace like the weight of Chadwick Boseman?
Mm-hmm.
To a movie that by the end of that trailer, I'm like, I want to see this movie extremely bad. And I think it's also just going to be an emotionally impactful experience for all kind of like comic books / superheroes / just movie fans in general. Because it's kind of us getting to say goodbye to Chadwick, it seems like. That was the tone of the trailer I got. The tone from the trailer that I got. Yeah,
I had similar sort of fears, or not fears, just kind of like
hesitations is what for me.
I like what is this film going to be?
Exactly. We hadn't seen footage. We had heard about a troubled production because, of course, obviously this film was going to have a troubled production.
Mm-hmm. On one of the comments on the on Marvel Entertainment's channel, their posting of the trailer, someone commented that Ryan Coogler the director of Black Panther and now Black Panther Wakanda Forever, he didn't know that Chadwick Boseman
Yeah, no, yeah.
was ill.
No one knew.
So you right, exactly. So he had to do a really quick rewrite.
Yeah, they
Apparently,
reworked the whole film, it sounds like. There's still
hmm
elements of it that are largely from the original script. It sounds like most of the movie is like obviously not what it was originally
right,
planned to
right,
be because they don't have Chadwick anymore. When
exactly.
I watched the trailer, obviously they choose the song by Bob Marley,
hmm
No
No
Woman, No
woman, no
Cry,
cry.
which
hmm
is just like it sets the tone for the trailer like automatically. Like you're hit in the feels, and then it's Angela Bassett's delivery because there's only like 3 spoken lines in the whole trailer, and they're all from Angela Bassett,
hmm
where she's like, "I am king of the most, or I'm queen of the most powerful nation, and my whole family is dead. Have I not sacrificed everything?"
Yeah, yeah.
You're just
I
like
just closed
right
the
there.
tab.
I
I
was
wish I
just
could have
like,
read that. Yeah.
yeah, just like right there. I'm like, that's the movie to me. Like that is like why I want to see this movie. And there's a dignity and grace and just like pure acting talent just on display right there.
Yeah, you can
And
hear like the desperation and
yeah,
like the frustration
yeah. So when I saw that,
reeling with that.
that was me just like I'm sold on this movie. I can't wait. There's no way. I can already just tell it's a movie that I am going to tear up pretty strongly to, if not
hmm
just full on cry. Because I think that's probably going to be most people who go see this movie. I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty emotionally impactful film.
It'll be a big one for Marvel,
Yeah.
to be sure.
But anyway, I just wanted to bring up the Black Panther Wakanda Forever news because I know that was kind of dominating the internet this week. But with that said, let's jump in to Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes,
Let's do one of
Mask of
those
the
sweeping
Phantasm.
transitions. Like I don't think we can afford that in our budget.
I was trying to do like the record scratch that Equals
Yeah,
Three
like
did back in the day with Ray William Johnson.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, good.
Could we do the Will Smith like from Girls of the World Ain't Nothing? Listen up, girls. I don't mean to bust your trouble, but girls of the world ain't
Bust your
nothing but
bubble.
trouble. Bust your bubble, yeah.
Bust your trouble. All right. Anyway,
Bust your
uh,
bubble. Girls of the world ain't nothing but trouble. A good theme for Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
oh,
Subtle transition.
oh,
So,
very.
but
Uh,
anyway, so
all right.
I'm reworking the film historian a little bit because I feel like we end up just naturally hitting a few of the points when we actually get into the main discussion.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to go a little less top heavy in the film historian, but there are some basic things I will talk about. This film is released in 1993. It is an American animated superhero film directed by Eric Radomski. Nope, Eric Radmosky and Bruce Timm, and written by Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, Martin Pascoe, and Michael Reeves. They all worked together on the Batman the Animated Series. Which, Branson, did you have any like relationship with the Batman Animated Series? Did you watch it a lot? Did you watch it even?
I think I've seen a few episodes
Mhm.
of the Batman animated series. It's got sort of the same. It reminded me of the Superman cartoon from years ago, like even older than the animated series. That where it just everything looked very crisp and fluid, and
Mm.
it had like this really unique art design and like
Yeah.
stylistic approach.
So this was my childhood. WB Kids was legitimately
Mm-hmm.
my childhood. When the WB logo pops out with Bugs Bunny coming out in a tuxedo next to it, huge nostalgia factor
Like,
right there for me in this
yes.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
Huge one. Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, Batman, all these properties, the Justice League stuff. And Batman was always one of my favorites of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
This show's pretty crazy influential for Batman. I mean, Harley Quinn is literally an inception from Paul Dini in this show. Like, that's where we first get introduced to Harley Quinn. It's where we really define who Batman is. If you wanted to say that Alan Moore and Frank Miller redefined him in the 80s in the comics, then this really defines Batman going forward in the 90s, and specifically what will lead to the Christopher Nolan era. That is not to discount what Tim Burton does with those first 2 movies, but this is definitely much more of the grounded archetype that will be built upon.
Less played up for comedy and more so a dramatic, more of a dramatic character, more of a sympathetic character, rather than just being kind of a meme, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely that element. Sorry, there's like someone's like yelling at my door. What, do you hear that?
No.
Oh, you don't?
No.
It's like literally
I just saw
like
you
right
looking
up.
around and I was like,
No, it's like literally because I'm like right by my door
Mhm.
for where my room is, and I'm just like I'm hearing like people have like a pretty loud like Italian conversation. I think is how I'll describe it. Like, hey, what you doing there?
What the heck, Tony? You
Oh, you
got
doofus.
your gabagool in my stromboli.
Yeah, sorry. So I got really distracted there because I'm like, who's yelling like that? But anyway, with that all said, the movie came out after the huge success in the first season of the show. So I think the show debuts in '92. The original idea of the movie, listen to this. This is actually quite interesting, Branson. Original idea of the movie is that Batman is captured in Arkham Asylum and is put on trial by the villains as they want to show that he is guilty of making them what they become. Warner Brothers deemed this too brainy.
Too brainy.
Too brainy, like a little bit too high concept. I probably agree with them. In an hour and 25-minute movie, it's probably a little bit too much.
Yeah, that would have been tough
to go around, and it's really like you're really starting to deconstruct Batman there in a good way. I think in a good way, like you're the yin and yang essentially, but definitely in a very
right.
Not a traditional sense of a Batman.
Yeah, not every hero is all the way good. I would be interesting to see.
Well,
someday.
they kind of hit elements of that in like Batman Arkham City. I feel like when Bruce Wayne goes to jail, like there are like moments of that where I feel like some of that like those ideas are brought over. But yeah, you're right. We never saw it in that regard. And then finally, originally this film was supposed to be straight to DVD, but Warner Brothers did decide to give it a last-second theatrical release, and it ended up grossing $5.6 million on a $6 million budget. So this was a pretty big disappointment. Everyone who worked on this movie, they had to rush it. They found out that it was going to get a theatrical release in 8 months, and they had to finish the project, which is pretty shocking because this film doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, that actually, the budget and the box office, and then that sort of history with like the not that much time to release actually informed what do you call it, the movie Whippets? Is that one of their segments?
That's right. I forgot about that category. I didn't have that on today, but I'm going to totally let you do that.
Okay, I've got that. Okay. I'll host that one then.
Perfect. With that said, let's get into our hills to die on.
Yes.
Branson, my hill isn't even really a defined hill this week. Usually I try to keep it one short sentence, maybe two short sentences. This one I didn't have a great one because I didn't feel like I was saying anything controversial to die on a hill for. Like there wasn't really anything that I was like saying it, and I'm like, yeah, that really redefines, like that's like a really new analysis or look into this movie, or that's like this super just like great read of the character of Batman. Everything I'm saying is just like, well, yeah, that's why this movie's good. Like, isn't that what everyone loves about this movie? So like my idea for my hills die on is just simply like, what an interesting route to take Bruce Wayne in, where it's just fully understanding this character. They did not need to. This is a movie that could have so easily just been a Batman fighting crime movie, and Batman's barely in the movie. It's a Bruce Wayne movie.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
this is
like
yeah,
literally
this is one
he's
of those
not
things.
in the suit as much as Bruce Wayne is on screen. Bruce Wayne is on screen more than Batman, I would bet.
Yeah, it's sort of the inverse of the most recent
the Batman
film
Pattinson.
where the Pattinson Batman is very clearly a Batman film. Where this one, you're right. It's more of a Bruce Wayne film. Like we see Batman, of course, but you know the ego and the alter ego of Bruce Wayne and Batman, respectively, isn't so it's not so separate. It's not so night and day. Like there's a lot of crossover that we see. Like we see Batman without the mask, and you're able to kind of connect the character to the hero, or the
Yeah,
man to the hero, you know?
yeah. Branson, before you do your hill to die on, I think we should probably actually transport to Gotham real quick. So let's. Boom, we're in Gotham.
There we are. Wow.
We're in Gotham.
Man, that is the same. If that's not the same color palette as every single promotional material for the Batman,
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
with Pattinson, that's very red and black.
Yeah. Branson, with us being in Gotham now, do you want to give your hill to die on? I'll bring you back in a close up for this. You get your close-up.
Yes. So Mask of the Phantasm is certainly a treasure of animation, a good encapsulation of kind of this unique visual style, with an amazing voice cast, and it outdoes a lot of live Batman or live action Batman films.
Mhm.
I mean, I certainly enjoyed this a lot more than the Joel Schumacher Batman
Mhm.
films, and even some of the ones. Oh, I can't remember where it's the one where Nicholson is the Joker.
Oh, that's Keaton. How dare you?
Yeah, that's key.
It's a treasure. That movie
I-
hasn't aged well.
Right. I know. That's the
I
problem.
respect it as a piece of 1980s, and I actually prefer it as a Tim Burton movie than a Batman movie now.
Yeah, that's the thing where
Yeah,
it's like there's just a little bit too much camp. I think the campy Batman is okay, but I think there needs to be a good balance of it. And in fact, I think while we're on the subject of Batman for the entire episode here on out, I think the Lego Batman movie strikes a great balance of campy Batman and action Batman, and it also helps that it is straight up just the toy Batman.
I'm gonna push back on you just a little bit. I think the thing about the Burton movies isn't necessarily the camp. I think there is definitely a lot of humor in those films, and it does at times ring true to what West was doing in the 60s. My thing with the movie upon rewatch is that like it's so 80s Burton. Like, I mean, down to the Prince soundtrack, down to just like these weird, bright choices, down to the characters, like design and character, like looks. Like, there's just so much of it that like that's the thing that pulls me away from the movie more than the humor of that movie. I think the humor of the movie works, and I think it's a little bit more subtle than how you're framing it.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a combination of the humor and just the 80s camp of it for me. I think those two things are just such strong elements that together it's kind of an overwhelming sense of camp.
It is.
Me.
And if
I don't know. And sometimes that's
I'm
fine.
Defending this movie in that context, I will say that the 92 version of Batman Returns probably leans a little bit more heavy on its over ridiculous campiness.
Yeah.
And it's a movie I actually prefer.
It certainly does.
I prefer Batman Returns over the first one, but it definitely like leans into it. But I think it's interesting that you brought up Batman, the 1989 version, which I didn't even have in my notes. It's almost this interesting like middle ground before the animated series and the Batman TV show with Adam West. It kind of like lays the groundwork to allow the animated series to be it. In the Burton movie, Gotham's a lot more fully realized. It has its own unique style. It has these gothic elements within it. Batman is definitely a lot more broody and dark, and it really explores the psychosis of this character. But again, it does have the Burton like feel to it throughout. So even like Michael Keaton at times feels almost, and this is nothing against him as an actor, he's almost playing eccentric to be eccentric. Because that's Burton's style. Burton's style is very much like
eccentric.
It's weirdos. Right. It's weirdos and guys who don't belong. Pretending they belong and don't they also deserve to be in our society,
Right.
even despite some of their
We
darker
do live
tendencies?
in a society.
Yeah, we do live in a society, and I love Burton style. We live in a society, Branson. I was thinking about this today when I was taking my notes. We've
Hmm.
reviewed, out of all the projects you and I have like done on this channel, every episode,
Hmm.
Batman has to be the one we keep coming back to. I feel
Yeah.
like we've done the most because we did Batman versus Superman,
Hmm.
we did The Dark Knight,
Hmm.
we did I kind of did like my own thing with the Batman. I did the spoiler
Hmm.
review for it on this
Right.
channel.
And we both did a trailer reaction to it,
Reaction to
and
it.
we saw it together.
We saw it together. We reviewed Joker. We're
Hmm.
now reviewing this movie. I mean, it feels like this is just like the franchise that you and I keep coming back to, because I think it's also just like, of the genres we like, not only is this one of the more palatable like presentations of this character, but it's also just straight up like maybe the most rich of these.
Yeah, I love all the angles that you can take Batman, because you have Batman the Man of,
Yeah, you have Bruce
Bruce
Wayne.
Wayne, which we see a lot of in Mask of the Phantasm.
You see Batman.
Yeah, you see Batman the hero, and we see that a lot in the Batman Forevers and the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, you have
And then
what can be his like relationship with the villain, specifically Joker,
mhm,
of course, but
mhm,
even just like with Bane and other guys like the Penguin or the Riddler, specifically in Pattinson's movie.
mhm,
Like, there's just a lot of angles that kind of allow us to like. I think the thing when you and I are choosing movies,
mhm,
and when we're not tying it into a movie release date, is we
mhm,
also try to think like, okay, are we just kind of reiterating a conversation we had earlier,
mhm.
and just with a new movie this time? And I feel like the thing with the Batman movies in particular is each like director, each style, and each direction they take Batman
Mhm.
in has its own kind of
Each one has
unique
its
style. It
merits.
has a
Yeah, each
stamp.
one has its merits as well.
Like even the
Um,
Schumacher stuff is so drastically different from the rest of it
right.
that there are ideas in there that are just like unique to Batman, and it does also
Mhm,
then get to pay homage to West
mhm.
while doing that.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, we're 33 minutes in and we've barely talked about the movie. So
Yeah.
let's get into this. Filmmaking strengths and weaknesses of this movie. Let's just hit some of the strengths real quick. I'll do to a piece, then you can jump in, and then we can
Yeah.
jump back till we have it over.
Mhm,
My first one that I noted was the biggest strength in the art design, and I think the reason I noted it
mhm,
first is because the first scene is very much the layout of like, this is what Gotham looks like. And like I said, Gotham's so fully realized in this universe, especially for a movie with a moderate budget. This design holds up simply because its simplicity, and this is just the case of color work. This is how
right.
much can you do with just so few colors to make it feel bold and stand out. And it's
Yeah, not
also just
everything not everything has to be hyper realistic, to look good.
yeah, movies. I've been realizing this thing with movies. I don't necessarily care if my movies look grounded in reality. I think there's something to be said about a movie that is just like, yeah, this world can only exist within the movies.
Mhm,
Like, to me, that's almost a little bit more interesting. Not saying that realism can't have its fair share in films, but I've noticed that I'm gravitating to something that feels like a little bit like, oh, this is an idea of something that we have in the real world, but then they
mhm.
kind of just play with it and they make buildings look the way buildings need to look for this universe, for Batman to basically jump around them in a very cool and unique fashion.
Right. It's more about the context and the kind of story that you're trying to tell. And
Yeah.
this fits. It matches the comic book look so well. I mean, honestly, I think that Into the Spider-Verse does this the best that we've
Mhm,
ever
I
seen.
would agree.
The just the comic book aspects of that film are just like so brilliant. This one is, and I think a lot of the other animated Batman films of this sort of style get the comic book look and cell shading and even like a little bit of the stifling. They nail that look, and like things look so crisp. You have these cool scenes like where it's just the silhouette of Batman soaring from one building to another. You have these frames of white as people are getting the tar beaten out of them, or as windows are being broken. Like those frames of white, it's almost like the movie equivalent of the bam, bop, pow sort of. What are those called? Automatopoeia sort of explosion bubbles.
Yeah. The words, the pop-ups.
Yeah, the
I'm
pop out
blanking on their
words.
actual name. There's something to be said about a movie, and specifically an animated movie, that just embraces 2D drawings. I think the thing is, 2D animation is always just going to stand the test of time a little easier than 3D. Because look at a movie that comes out 2 years after this, which is Toy Story, the first Toy Story movies. That movie, as great as it is, its animation does not look
It
good.
looks like, as much as I enjoy Toy Story,
I love Toy
one,
Story.
it looks like a previs for Toy Story 3, Toy Story 4.
Yeah, it's a 1995 pre-CGI looking incredible animated movie. And there's something with this movie.
It had to look like that because it was breaking ground as the first fully
it sets the ground
computer
for
animated.
it, and it needs to come out, but it is also just like this thing when you go back and watch this movie.
This is the segment we like to call Ben and Bran cover their asses. From by not insulting Toy Story.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's just like this thing, like when you watch this movie, you watch it and you're just like, oh, of course, like this looks a very certain way that allows it to like kind of stand the test of time. Like it's almost like the rule is simplistic, just allows you to just kind of keep existing without the fear of like aging. Like there's just nothing for this film to age.
Yeah,
badly.
And
like really,
as someone who, no, I'm not accusing you, but I'm saying that I think I'm slightly less prone to nostalgia bias on this film than you are.
That's probably fair. I've only seen this film 2 times.
Okay, right, but there's like the whole of the Batman animated series.
Yeah,
that was,
I
like,
definitely have a
for you.
love for the Batman animated series. Kevin Conroy's vocal performance, Mark Hamill, all of that. Like, I definitely have a prone nature to appreciate that.
Right. This film is still amazing. I love it. It does withstand the test of time. I think sometimes I don't know if it was because of just like playback on HBO or what, because we watched this on HBO Max. Every so often there were some weird things with lip sync, which is hard to do with hand-drawn animation sometimes. That's like the only thing that I can really think of that I was like, this doesn't hold up. But it's also so much easier to do that now. Otherwise, it's not that much about the lip flap.
Yeah,
it's more about the story around it. So that's the only thing that I can think of that's a weakness.
Yeah, and I will say at times the action can feel stale.
It's probably just a budgetary.
Yeah, it is. It's a
restraint.
Budget thing. It's a restraint of just what you are able to do as animators working on a type of budget like that, and also just probably a little bit of the limitations of what just is possible really on film animation side at that point. But like, yeah, there are elements of that like feel a little weaker, and like I can point to the action in particular. Like there's a few scenes where it's just like it's very basic, non-fluid action. And it's very kept to its minimal in this film. I will say the other thing that I really appreciate about this movie is they fully embrace the noir side of Batman. They don't even bother to like. This is a full-on detective noir film in its feeling. Like this could be Humphrey Bogart, like style 1940s, like true to that idea.
You just had a serious download.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, your audio for me was just like,
yeah, there is like
I got the gist.
with Bogart and like all these films of like, I'm trying to think, the Maltese Falcon, like this could very much fit in that type of like, even the way the like gangsters talk feels very 1930s, very 1940s.
Yeah, you got it. You got it, Mister. I can't remember the.
Yeah, it's very abrasive at times. Like it's just so like
You got it, Mister Sal.
it's so Chicago and New York like
Yeah.
ideals of what a gangster sounds and looks like, and
Blast
even
that
to the way
mook.
they dress.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
it's
the
playing with
trilbies
all
and
that.
the trilbies and the 3-piece suits.
Yeah. So, Branson, what about for you?
Um, as far as
Just the
what?
strengths of this film. Like, what are the things that stood out to you?
I love the voice cast. Obviously,
Hmm.
Mark Hamill is just incredible
Yeah, the
as the
standout, I would
Joker.
say.
Hmm. I mean, I Mark Hamill's just incredible. I need to remind myself of who voiced other people, but
Oh, I
I
have
love
the list right here. I have so it's Kevin Conroy is
Kevin
Batman.
Conroy. Hmm.
Donna Delaney is Andrea Belmont.
Hmm.
Belmont. Uh,
Beaumont. Oh my
yeah. So
goodness,
those are some of the.
Abe Vigoda kind of looks like Salvatore.
Oh, those.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Like this cast is like this is the cast of the animated series. I mean, even
Hmm.
Donna Delay, sorry, Donna Delaney,
Dana
Donna
Delaney.
Delaney.
Hmm.
Like she comes back to voice Lois Lane in Superman,
Hmm.
the animated series. Like they
Oh,
take
nice.
all these vocal performers, and it's also another weird mark of film where it's very traditional to now get big actors to do voice performances,
Hmm.
which at times can work really wonderful, and at other times it's just like maybe you should actually get somebody who like works and trains as a vocal like performer and not as an actor necessarily, like a vocal actor, not just like an on-screen actor.
Right.
Like Sebastian Stan in What If is a really great example when he plays Bucky Barnes, and you're like, yeah, he sounds pretty bad as a vocal performer.
Yeah. There are certain. I mean, that's why they are voice matching actors and actresses. One that I've really liked recently is Shelby Young. She does voice matching for Princess Leia in
Mm-hmm.
the Lego series and a couple other things as well, and she sounds just like her.
Yeah, or even
But
like a guy
she's a
like
voice
who,
actress,
and there's
so
some
she
people who
knows
can
how to
do it
do it.
both, and
Hmm.
like some who are
Right.
maybe trained and
Yeah.
others are who have been able to make the transitions between both. Like Sam Witwer,
Like.
who does the
Mhm.
Emperor and Maul in Rebels and
Mhm.
Clone Wars, is
And
fantastic.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill is another great
Hmm.
example of a guy who can do Luke Skywalker and play the Joker both pretty seamlessly. Uh,
Yeah.
the other thing with this movie, and we're going to get into this point a lot more. Branson, you've seen Casino Royale, right? With Daniel Craig.
Yes,
Did this
it's been quite some time.
did this movie give you those vibes of like Casino
Hmm.
Royale? And I don't know if you remember the movie particularly well, but I'm talking about the Ava Green love interest, like Vesper Lynn, I believe is her character in Casino Royale. Just the idea of Casino Royale is exploring
Hmm.
how or how James Bond becomes James Bond. And that
Hmm.
the fact that like he becomes this womanizer who can say by the end of the film he can go from loving this woman, comforting her in the shower after like trauma, versus to the end of the film of Quantum of Solace where he can say the job is done, the bitch is dead. Like
Hmm.
it's very much the showcase of breaking down how this guy becomes that. And I found this relationship within Mask of Phantasm to be very similar, not necessarily in the way that it hits the beats, but just in
Hmm.
the over idea of how they use this character of Andrea to explore who Batman is.
Yeah, agree. I think it's the fact that you know Bruce Wayne is sort of pulled this and that way with Andrea, where it's like, oh, she doesn't love me. Oh, she's back, but there we still have some tension. Oh, she does love me. Oh, I still love her. And then the big reveal. I think this is the first time that we have to do a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Andrea is the Phantasm. Uh, we're
Did you
we're
did you did you assume that when watching the film?
I mean, I was like, it's either Andrea or her dad.
Yeah, and for
And at
me,
a
like
certain
that's
point,
like
they say like she says explicitly like, yeah, that's my dad that's doing it. So I was like, okay, that's her dad.
there is a point for me when watching this movie that it's a little bit of a knockdown for me,
Hmm.
where I do feel like that aspect is so predictable. Like, to me, it always felt like naturally, like, and they set it up so obviously at the beginning of the movie where she can somehow like topple Bruce Wayne in a fight, like, where they're doing jujitsu, and
Right.
she's like, "Oh, I took a class." It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, that's clearly what you're setting up to. So later, when that reveal happens, like, there is a little bit of that element to me that doesn't fully work in this film,
That
but their
part isn't.
relationship works for me.
That part isn't too bad. Like that makes sense. She lives in Gotham. It's a fair enough reason for her to take a self defense class. I lived in
No, I'm not
Gotham.
saying the taking of the self defense class is my issue. It's the
Oh, the
idea
fact
that
that
she
she
would
was
be
able to
able to
bring
get it on
down.
Batman.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that
like
makes
like
sense.
that level of just like skill is just like either Batman's really bad at
Right. It
jujutsu
makes you at
or
least a
there's
little
someone trained.
suspicious. It makes you at least a little bit
Which
suspicious. Like, okay, how
which
is she going to tie into like the fight later
which
on?
is maybe kind of the point of the movie because
Mm-hmm.
Batman knows who the Phantasm is. Like, he puts
Mm-hmm.
it together, like, who this person logically has to be. So you
Mm-hmm.
do need scenes like that to establish. I will just say, like I said, there's a huge mystery element within this film, and it doesn't always work for me
Mm-hmm.
throughout. But besides that, I mean, that's really my issues with the film. I mean, there's a central villain issue that the film also has, and just the fact that it's a little too undefined. Joker's very
Yeah.
much the secondary character, and I like the fact that Joker is used as a secondary character, but it does kind of leave this weird gaping hole where it's just kind of these gangsters.
Yeah,
Which
that was something that I forgot to mention. Like Salvatore is like a fairly big I guess B tier villain
he's
that
probably like a little
Batman
bit
faces.
lesser on a level than a Falcone, but
Right,
certainly
yeah.
like a known character.
Yeah, exactly. Salvatore and Falcone. I can't remember if the he's Italian, so it's probably
I've heard it
Falcone.
both.
Um yeah, I think they're both the same level, but they're definitely like the B tier villains as opposed to like obviously the A tier would be like or the S tier would be like the Joker,
Yeah,
Bane.
the Joker, Penguin,
Mhm.
Freeze, Riddler,
Yeah.
like the
And then there are
icons of
like
the iconic, like
some
Catwoman.
smaller ones in the A tier like
Yeah,
I don't know, would be
Bane, and
the
just like
Scarecrow maybe.
Scarecrow, like
And
these
yeah.
characters who have impact, maybe Poison Ivy, but they're not
Yeah,
the like
Poison Ivy.
driving force of
Right.
Batman's like psychosis, essentially.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah,
Yeah,
so those are.
that's a really good point about sort of a like a villain power vacuum.
It's almost a little too small for me. Like,
Yeah.
it is almost just like this thing of when I'm watching this movie, I'm just like, why would Batman really be considering himself with money laundering when you
Mhm.
know this like city of like people exist like that are
Right.
so much
Right.
like more
Right.
more that
Right.
Batman would be paying more attention to. So there's a little bit
Mhm.
of disconnect with that element within the movie.
Mhm.
Let's jump over to our MVPs of the film.
Mhm.
Branson, I had 5 nominees. At the
Oh,
end of my 5 nominees, if there was anyone you think we should add, let me know, and then I'll
okay.
reveal who I voted for.
Okay.
My 5 nominees were Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, Martin Pascal, and Mike Reeves, all as one nominee for writing
Mhm.
this film. That's one nomination. Donna Delaney for her performance as Andrea in this film.
Is it Donna or Dana?
It might be Dana. No, I think it actually might be Donna.
Okay.
Well, who knows? I'm unsure. I did not look it up. I do apologize. Mark Hamill, of course, for the Joker is
Mhm.
one of the nominations right away. I put Shirley Walker, who's the composer of this film.
Okay, that's a good one.
And finally, I put Kevin Conroy as obviously Bruce Wayne / Batman.
Yeah.
Uh, is there anyone that I should have mentioned or an aspect of the movie that I should have pointed out for a nomination here?
Maybe. Let's try. I would say art director
That's a fair one. The art director was like the one that I was
Kevin
like trying.
Altieri.
Yeah, I didn't put the directors and art directors. I felt like the writing was just a little bit more impactful for
Mhm.
me. So like the vocal performer that I did think about was the low life. Is he a senator in this movie?
Yeah. Are you're talking about Arthur? I think his name's
Is his
Arthur.
name Arthur? It
I believe
is
so.
Arthur Reeves. Yeah,
Yeah, Arthur Reeves.
Bocher who plays him. who's
Hmm.
also in Die Hard. I thought about considering him, but I just decided that these five were the most to me.
Hmm.
But yeah, the art director is a very good one to put on there. Do you have a vote?
Oh, for hmm.
Conroy, Hamill,
Oh man, I
Delaney, the writers, and the
It's Shirley Walker, correct?
Shirley Walker.
Yeah, Shirley Walker as composing is a great nomination.
So
I
I'll be
think
honest, she was my vote. I
really,
voted her. She was my vote for the MVP of this film.
yeah, I
The
love.
score is so impactful in this film.
Yeah, it's never so big that it's like trying too hard, but it sets up like that perfect level of mystery, and also um, there's like the mystery, there's a suspense, there's the romantic sort of drama in
And
it
there's
as
like a
well.
tragedy to the whole like beat of the score. Like
Yeah.
there's scenes that we'll get into a little later because I have it in another category. But
Hmm.
just like where Batman becomes Batman, like the scene where Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. That
Hmm.
musical note that it hits when Alfred realizes what has become of Bruce Wayne,
Hmm.
it's a very emotionally impactful, like just note that it's able to take. And I feel like it incorporates itself so naturally to the visuals on screen
Hmm.
that, like, without it, the film wouldn't be able to work as well because Batman's such an inner character who struggles to express himself that the
Hmm.
music kind of needs to reflect who this guy is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not to bring up the Batman again, but the Batman, the most recent one with Pattinson, composed by
Giacchino does, yeah,
yeah, by Giacchino.
he does
It's
something very similar.
yeah, it's where the musical composition kind of defines the man in this, and the musical composition defines the Mask of the Phantasm Batman slash Bruce Wayne really well, in the same way that Giacchino's composition defines Pattinson's Batman really
I
well.
totally agree with that point.
Mhm.
Let's talk about 1993 in a nutshell. Let's just kind of give the film context, which is where I mentioned
Okay,
the film historian stuff will come in a little later.
4 years before I was born,
1995
Ecto Cooler
for
existed.
me. So 1993, and I'm talking it specifically on the side of animation and in
Hmm.
the terms of superhero movies.
Hmm.
1993 is a very weird year for animation.
Hmm.
Uh, at this time, if you're not a film by Disney for animated, you're really not getting
Yeah,
notoriety.
nothing's happening for you.
There are a few, like, so for instance, the biggest animated film of this year is a Disney animated film, which is Nightmare Before Christmas.
Hmm.
Uh, and then on the top five, rounding out the top five, you have two Dragon Ball Z movies, which aren't even released in America at that time. Like
Okay.
they're in Japan.
Hmm.
So like that's like kind of the crop that comes out around Mask of Phantasm. 1992, you have Aladdin, you have a Tom and Jerry movie, you have a Tiny Toons movie that goes straight to video. 94, you get Lion King and the Swan. DreamWorks is founded in 94, but it doesn't release its first film, Ants, until 98. Toy Story doesn't get released till 95, and then, has a gap before Bug's Life. There are like a few studios, I guess, technically that exist at the time. Studio Ghibli already had My Neighbor Totoro
Hmm.
in 88. But again, that's not a movie that's accessible really at the time to American audiences. Studio Ghibli doesn't really become a force in America till the late 90s when it gets distribution rights from Disney and the Weinstein
Hmm.
Company. I believe
Hmm.
it's the Weinstein Company.
Oh.
Uh, I apologize if I associated Studio Ghibli with Weinstein and I was incorrect, but I believe it's him. Paramount, has the Beavis and Butthead movie not till 96. Anastasia's Fox in 97. There's really just nothing that's allowed to exist in the animation
Hmm.
framework in the early to mid 90s. And then, of course, like the animation boost after DreamWorks, after Pixar, Paramount, all these Fox starts releasing, like it really becomes a boom of
Hmm.
animation, especially as uh, this type of work becomes easier to do with computers,
Hmm.
like really driving its force. But it's just like if you look at the top 10 highest grossing animated films of the 90s, they're all Disney, all 10 of them. I think like 12 is when you start getting a movie like I forgot which one it does. Maybe it's The Prince of Egypt, which is a
Oh,
huge movie when it comes out.
Prince of Egypt is
DreamWorks. It's
DreamWorks.
one of DreamWorks' earliest movies. I think it's like one of their first 2 or 3.
And
But
that movie is like amazing.
So beautiful. So beautiful. But yeah, it's just a weird place for animation to be at the time, because also at the thing, it's not only does Disney have the monopoly on it, they're also like kind of by and far away making the best animated films that not only define that era, they define like animation, like Beauty and the Beast,
the
Lion
90s,
King, Aladdin, Hercules, Mulan, Pocahontas.
The 90s, that's why it's called the Disney Renaissance. It's because that's where some of their biggest animation properties came about. And that's the thing that a lot of people think of when they think of Disney. Those films.
It is. So it is just like, it is this interesting place that Batman Mask of the Phantasm has to live, and probably explains why this film doesn't hit quite the popularity. Also because it's just like a film that has to get marketed quickly. And honestly, if you watch the trailer, it's not very good. It doesn't look particularly interesting.
I think that's what I figured the main thing was, lack of planning as far as marketing is concerned.
It's a lack of exposure, I think. Like just straight up, like, and also like Batman Returns, which is the year before, has so much controversy marked around it. Just with, it's too violent, it's too dark, it's not fun, it's dour, it's too sexual. Like there was just this weird thing that follows up with Batman Returns that I think like didn't necessarily taint the brand. But I mean, we see in '95 the brand's basically reinvented with Forever and Jim Carrey doing his Riddler thing. Like it's a very cartoonish, different approach than what Burton is setting up. And this film is definitely much more in line with Burton than it is in the sensibilities of Schumacher.
Yes.
Also, just a thing to note that is really weird about this era. We're in an age right now where superhero movies basically come out once every other month.
Yeah,
and then when we don't have them during the current month, we have TV shows that are going on. Like Miss Marvel, like The Boys, like Loki, like Moon Knight, like all of that, like Umbrella. Then the movies in theaters, Morbius, Invincible. I had to slip in that Morbius. Morbius Sweep. It's Mighty Morbin time.
I'm gonna morb.
It's so weird, like, and especially for us who didn't get to live through this era, where, I mean, you and I are living in an era where superhero films are so abundant. We don't get to live in an era where they're not really successful. I mean,
people in the 90s didn't get fatigued with superhero movies.
Yeah, because they are so far and few between, and honestly, DC's the only one making them, really. They have 4 successful Superman films that stop in '87 after the terrible reception of the Quest for Peace? I think it's Superman 4, The Quest for Peace in '87.
Significant drop in quality and I'm pretty sure budget as well.
Yeah, you have the Batman movies that again just changed so drastically over time that by '98 everyone's wondering, like, is the brand just dead forever after Batman and Robin? You have that, and I mean, like, besides that, Marvel's very quiet during this time. They have a few TV movies like the Fantastic Four that never, like, I don't even think it makes it to TV. I think it's just something that people are able to like boot at Comic-Cons years later. I don't think it ever made it to air.
Not a lot of great stuff coming from Marvel.
There's Captain America with the guy who's with the son of the guy who wrote Catcher in the Rye. Salinger, his kid, is Captain America in this movie.
That's
1990.
That is bizarre.
I think that one makes it to TV. You have the Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV movie on Fox. That's David Hasselhoff, which is probably the most successful of these TV movies. You have this Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie in like 88 or 89 that doesn't go off. And then like the rest of the superhero genre.
Lou Ferrigno's Hulk.
That's 80s or 70s and 80s. So it's like,
oh yeah, that's even older.
TV. And like, so like the movies are like not even like properties that like defined as Marvel, DC, like the big ones. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the biggest. But then you have like The Crow, The Mask, Spawn, Steel, all of those. And then like on that side, like I said, Marvel doesn't have their first big film until 98 with Blade, and then 2000 with X-Men. Like, and Marvel at this time is trying to develop the James Cameron Spider-Man film with Leonardo DiCaprio that never ends up being a movie. Like,
Wah,
it's just
wah.
such a weird era for it. And superheroes exist solely on TV. I'm listen to the list of the superheroes that had cartoons. You had X-Men, hugely successful. You had the Batman animated series and its spin-offs. You had Fantastic Four, Super Spider-Man Unlimited, Superman, Batman Beyond, Hulk, Silver Surfer, Spawn, Iron Man, Spider-Man. Like, just so much in
Lots of
abundance. Like,
Spider-Man. Lots
yeah,
of Spider-Man.
it's where it lives. It lives
Mhm.
solely on TV, is where it's just like, okay, superheroes are allowed to exist and exist within the medium, probably because,
As
directors like
cartoons.
Tarantino and Kevin Smith are kind of popularizing the idea of like caring about comic books,
Mhm.
but it's still like it has its niche on TV.
Right. Well, it has its niche as a kids thing.
Mhm.
I mean, how
It's a
many of those
Saturday
are
morning cartoon.
exactly? Yeah, you need your Saturday morning villain.
Yeah. And before we move on from 93, one last thing to note, Branson, and I thought this list was crazy. I have the list of the 25 highest grossing films domestically at the box office for December of 1993.
Okay.
Batman Mask of the Phantasm comes out in December of 93. I think it's like Christmas Day, basically. And it
Mhm.
ends up being 23rd for the domestic total of this
Mhm.
month. I'll list you some of the movies and just get ready for this. Number one's Mrs. Doubtfire. Wayne's World 2's on there. Number four, Sister Act 2. Number seven's Tombstone. Number eight's Adam Family Values. Number nine's Three Musketeers. Number 11's Carlito's Way. Number 13, The Piano. Number 16, Nightmare Before Christmas. Number 17, Cool Runnings. Number 21, Jurassic Park. And number 22, Schindler's List. Get ready for this, Branson. Jurassic Park is number 21 for a December total. The movie came out in June of 1993.
Oh,
It holds on through December.
wow.
Like, we
Okay.
don't get movies anymore that hold on like that. Like,
For
movies
6 months?
movies get released in theaters. Maybe they're in theaters for about 2 months, maybe three, and then they're on Blu-ray.
Hmm. Or,
This is like where a
sometimes they
movie
get
is allowed to, like,
re-released and have another flop.
yeah, yeah, or is it re-release Morbius? Are we on
Yes.
true reads now? Yeah.
We were all busy that weekend.
Yeah, we were all busy that week, and we're gonna go see it this time, we promise. But yeah, so it's just kind of like a crazy like thing to look back on in 93 and just like, one, these are the movies that are popular at the time.
Hmm.
Like, just straight up, like, those types of movies aren't being made anymore. Like,
Hmm.
the fact that like you could have Mrs. Doubtfire, a comedy, be the biggest film of the year.
Yeah. No
Like,
way.
along
Or
with
of the
Jurassic
month.
Park, like,
Yeah.
Jurassic Park obviously holds on, but then like Wayne's World choose one of the biggest movies. It's just like, no, those films would be so drowned over by
Oh, absolutely.
IP at this
Hmm.
point. Let's do. Is it? It's my favorite category now. I don't know if it's yours. It's the Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore? Yeah.
Mount Rushmore. I have
Mount
some good
Rushmores
ones
are
this
really
week.
fun. I've got some too.
Okay,
Pick
good.
your best two. I have two.
Oh, I'm gonna have to pick my best three.
Okay, fair enough. We might
You're
have one
making me-
that's the same.
Okay, I'm gonna take this one off if you're making me choose it.
Sorry, I'm putting my foot
Okay.
down.
No, it's actually I'm gonna choose this one.
We might have at least one of ours as the
Okay,
same.
I'll keep two on the side and then I'll have them ready. Is the character of Andrea the best superhero love interest in a movie, or on the Mount Rushmore of best superhero love interest? I have Lois Lane, optional. I have the nominees, I should say, are Lois Lane, Mrs. Incredible, Gwen Stacy, MJ, Catwoman, Elektra, Pepper Potts, Steve Trevor, Peggy Carter, Andrea from this movie. Does she make it onto the Mount Rushmore?
I don't think so.
I would say no either. I would totally agree. We don't even have to go all deep into that question.
Yeah, some of the ones. I mean, Lois Lane is so clearly up there. Catwoman if there's anyone that is from the Batman one, it would have to be
It would have to
Catwoman.
be her, and then you'd have to assume one Spider-Man love interest gets in there, if not both. And then like you have the choice of Steve, Trevor, Pepper Potts, Elektra, Peggy Carter. Like there's just too many names there. And that's not even like listing like, you know, the girlfriend in Deadpool is a really good love interest as well. Like there's totally other ones from different genres that I like, different like less popular ones. You could do one of your Mount Rushmores.
Okay. I have the hero gets beat up real bad Rushmore. This is for one of the best scenes where the hero just gets his ass kicked. Some of the does Batman specifically from Mask of the Phantasm make it on that Mount Rushmore? Some of your other options might be John Wick, Avengers, like all of the Avengers at the end of Infinity War, Luke Skywalker in Episode 5, Batman in Dark Knight Rises, Indiana Jones in the first one.
Jones was like
against the mechanic.
When you said like this Mount Rushmore, Jones was the first guy I thought of.
Really?
Indiana Jones is always the first guy because I think it's the brilliance of those movies is the fact that they're like, no, Harrison Ford's going to get beat up in these movies and like take some heavy punches. Like, and that's what makes him relatable is he's not perfect. I'm going to say no because you already listed one Batman movie that I don't even know if I'd have it on my Mount Rushmore, but it's definitely up on it above this movie, which is
really,
I don't even like.
You don't think DKR would be on there?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying DKR would probably be on this.
Oh, it would. Okay.
Would be on at least consideration of Mount Rushmore more than Mask of Phantasm. I don't know necessarily if it would get onto my Mount Rushmore, but it's definitely in more consideration than this movie.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's mine. I have one more and then you can jump onto yours. I have two more. Oh, which one do I want to go? Let's have this discussion now because it's almost like irrelevant to Mount Rushmore, but I realize there's only like 4 movies in total we can ever talk about this specific subject, and we've already not done it on one movie, and there's one movie we'll probably never cover on this.
Okay.
But it's the best use of a Dear John letter in a movie. Do you know what a Dear John letter is?
Yes, it's a letter usually written to a soldier overseas where it's like, I don't love you anymore, I found someone else.
Yeah, it's that. I was thinking about it, and the reason I wanted to have this discussion is because, like I said, it's probably like because I looked at all the movies I could find that had this. There's very few besides the actual Dear John movie,
right?
With Channing Tatum and I think it's Seyfried. But I found it so interesting, and again, we don't even have to actually do the Rushmore for this. I had like a few mentioned. It's funny because Batman has 2 of them. He has Mask of Phantasm, and he has it in The Dark Knight, with Rachel leaving him the letter, right?
Oh, yeah.
Dies.
Oh, yes.
Like, that's great, like, just scene. Here's why I wanted to talk about this, because I had no other idea when we were going to talk about this in particular. So I'll throw out my other nomination. I had the Simpsons movie, The Goodbye Homie scene, where Marge, like, it's not technically a letter, but it's the recording over their wedding tape, which, have you seen that movie?
It's been a long time.
It's one of my favorites.
All I remember is the dome and thank you, boob lady.
Here's why I brought it up, the Dear John letter, because when this scene happens in the movie, in Mask of Phantasm, I instantly thought of another instance of the Dear John letter that is probably the most impactful I've ever seen, and it comes from such a weird place. I don't know if you're going to guess where it comes from. It's not even a movie, it's a TV show. But it's also animated. Can you name it?
Teen Titans?
No.
Oh, I don't know.
Rick and Morty.
Huh?
Rick and Morty, do you remember the episode Autoerotic Assimilation? It's the one with Unity.
Oh, that's really good.
Dude, so I was watching the scene in Mask of Phantasm, and I'm just like, 1, it's a really well done scene in the movie, and 2, I also just thought of the Rick and Morty scene the whole time, because to me, that's the best moment of Rick and Morty. It's just that singular, like, 5-minute, like, stretch.
Where he's walking through.
Where he's just walking around and just
going
to kill himself because of, like, what has happened and the idea that... And it's so interesting. The reason I brought it up and decided to just do this side tangent, they're both in very similar places when they received the Dear John letter. It is basically their love interest telling them, I know you can never change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of why I love you, and it's also why I can't be with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's such an emotionally impactful scene in both. It's shockingly impactful in Rick and Morty. Like, works to
Yeah, it
such
is.
wonderful effects.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it really encompasses a lot of the ideas that work so well about Batman in this, and also vice versa, what works so well about Rick in it. But it's just like this idea of who Batman is. It's the
Mm-hmm.
exploration of Bruce's refusal to give up his crusade. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he's this guy who's, I think Batman is at his best as a character when they're exploring the psychoses of self-hatred and pain that just
Yeah.
resonates in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And when they kind of explore
The
that kind of
psychological
loss,
effects. Yeah.
yeah, when they explore that loss, it just allows Bruce Wayne to be a fully functional character that we understand why he does what he does. Because you
Right.
need that, because in this character is so depressing. Like, it is like the idea of this very character's existence is to take up a never-ending crusade. He is basically Atlas pushing. No, it's not Atlas. Who's the one who rolls up the rock, the boulder, just to have it
Sisyphus.
come? Sisyphus. This is basic.
Sisyphus.
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 I'm not going to get it. That this is basically his role. He will always, for the rest of his life, push up this rock that will always just come down. Gotham will never be fixed.
Right.
That is kind of the fundamental idea of Gotham. But he is this soldier that he even kind of realizes it can't be fixed, but he kind of can't allow himself to like accept that. And he, like I said, it's this self-imposed.
That's where that
mistake.
"please let me be done" sort of thing
it's
comes
a scene
from.
that we'll get to in a second because it's one of my favorite scenes. But it is that line in the movie where when he's talking to the grave of his parents, and he's just like, basically, let me be free of this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
in this moment of the Dear John letter, when he gets that, it is us as an audience also just kind of realizing like this guy is just who he is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we'll get into that scene in a second. But I have one more Mount Rushmore, but I'll let you go with your next one.
I was just going to say the Joker Rushmore. There aren't too many options, but does Mark Hamill's
Jared
Joker
Leto,
make it?
Jared Leto, and Jared Leto. But can we rank it by the Jared Leto moments within them? So it would be Jared Leto offering to give Batman a reach around would be like George Washington. It would be Jared Leto saying "habada habada" in the Suicide Squad in the nightclub. It would be him in the tuxedo. It would be him saying, "Would you fall? Would you die for me? Would you live?" It's those four, right?
I guess
with the reach around being number one.
I knew I shouldn't have asked that one. I knew how it was going to go.
Let's go seriously because we all know what the nominations are. Yeah. The four have to be in some order. The three that are non-negotiable are Heath Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix, Mark Hamill. Non-negotiable to me are those three. It's the fourth one where what do you do with the fourth one? I would probably put Nicholson in there. I don't even love his version of the Joker, but it's so important to because it gives gravitas to the franchise. It's like, oh, we have the biggest actor in the world agreeing to be in our movie as our main villain. And it sets up for the groundwork of like, oh yeah, superhero movies are serious and you can get actors like this. Now, true, Nicholson asked for literally an arm and leg to be in this movie. And he also just wanted to play the Joker. But yeah, I think Nicholson's my fourth.
Yeah,
would you put Galifianakis?
Galifianakis?
He's in the Lego Batman movie.
Oh, that's pretty good.
It's not a bad pick.
That is pretty funny. That's a much more comedic, a comedically focused, I guess, portrayal of the Joker. But I would say the original Joker in the live action.
Cesar Romero.
Yeah, Cesar Romero.
66 version.
Mm-hmm.
He was the other one I was hitting.
It's the first time that we see the Joker, right? In
movie format, it's technically like there are some like TV serials with him. Like there are
the
like
first long form
Yeah, there's some like movies like from the 40s that are technically like serialized films that technically have
Mhm.
him in it. I think they have him in it. But yeah, he's really the first one is Romero. He would be
Yeah.
kind of the Washington on that. The
Yeah,
guy who
exactly.
started it all.
Yeah, exactly. The founding father.
But I think that's fair. I have one more question for my Mount
Okay.
Rushmore, and this one's a little bit more serious.
And
So
then we
take
should
it.
probably start wrapping up because we're approaching an hour and we just passed an hour 15.
Oh, wrapping it up. Eh? Okay, I'll get some of my notes solidified. Uh, this one's serious, so please take it as seriously as it deserves. Is
Okay.
is Batman: Mask of the Phantasm on the Mount Rushmore of movies where it is implied that a main character is having sex with a robot? The nominees are Wanda from Captain America: Civil War, Lando from Solo, Austin Powers from Austin Powers in the International Man of Mystery with the
Mystery.
Fembots, Pris from Blade Runner, Ex Machina, Joaquin Phoenix and Her with Scarlett Johansson's AI phone, and the movie AI directed by Steven Spielberg. So,
Oh my
does this
gosh.
movie make it on the list?
No,
No?
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Ex Machina,
Ex
definitely on
Machina, I would
there.
agree.
AI, Her, um,
I have a different.
and
I'd
International
go
Man of
Wanda.
Mystery.
I'd go Wanda from the
Okay.
MCU. I'd Austin Power just for the comedic sensibilities. I'd put Pris from Blade Runner, and then Ex Machina. We do both agree on. Though Her is a reasonable one to put on there.
Yeah.
All right, let's start wrapping it up. I think I can land this ship in about 15 minutes. You ready to see me do this? Okay,
Yeah.
I have my 5 favorite scenes of the movie ranked. Did you do this as well?
No, I did not.
Okay, I have my 5 favorite scenes.
They're
Tell
probably
me
similar.
if you agree. And if when I'm done, if you would have any higher, or if when I'm done, if there was any that I missed or any that you would not have on there. My number 5 is Batman chased by the police helicopters.
Yeah, that scene was awesome.
I think it's the best action scene in the movie. My
Shows him as a
fourth one,
human.
this one could go higher. This one's a great reveal in the movie. It's when we see Joker in the photo. When you realize that's the
Yeah,
Joker as
that
the
was
gangster.
cool.
That's a great reveal in the movie. Number 3, it's another Joker scene, but doesn't actually feature the Joker. I think it's like kind of the most like one of the most threatening, just like kind of the most intense scenes in the movie. It's when the senator gets poisoned with laughing gas and
Yes.
Batman like confronts him.
That
Scene
was
is great.
I'd mark that as lower, but still on the list.
Yeah. Number 2, it's this 1 and 2 could have switched, but I did go this order. It's when he's deciding if he wants to court Andrea, and like he's talking to Alfred about like I can't have this and like with somebody being at home for me, like waiting for me to
one of the
come
best
home.
character moments.
And then like it's that because it's that same moment that then pairs with him going to his parents' grave and saying, "I didn't count on being happy."
Right.
Of all Batman like exploration lines, that one just kind of summarizes who the Caped Crusader is. Like
yeah,
that
one was
like
rough.
it is like the weight of this responsibility on his shoulders that is so self-imposed, but he doesn't understand that. It's just something he refuses
he's a
to
slave
believe.
to himself.
Exactly. And then number 1, I think this has to be the moment. It's when she leaves him. It's when she leaves when she does the Dear John letter. Bruce realizes what has happened. He gets the engagement ring back. And it's the scene where he takes up the mantle of Batman. Like where you see him making the costume. And I think the scene that like really solidifies this is when Alfred sees him in the cowl the first time and just kind of gasps like
that scene
like
was
because
awesome.
that's the moment where he's just like that's Alfred kind of realizing like like
you're
this
serious
is
about this.
Yeah, not only are you serious about this, everything that I had feared for you and that you would become is kind of
staring
a
at
living
right now.
embodiment of like every fear that I had and knowing this would consume you, and it's just real now. Those would be my 5 scenes.
Yeah. That's pretty
is there
good.
any that you would add or
honorable mention, just good old fashioned Joker and Batman fight. The City of the Future is a really neat. I love
it's a fun
I love
design.
how it's a miniature thing, so they kind of look like kaiju throwing around buildings, but it's a miniature.
Mhm.
It's kind of comedic in terms of like where it's set, but it still takes itself seriously enough.
My honorable mentions were uh, it is the scene where Joker is talking to the senator slash former gangster when they're kind
Mhm.
of reliving like this is happening, like you have to kill the Batman for us. And it's again just one of those moments where Joker's kind of so openly talking about his relationship with Batman, and you
Mhm.
just kind of realize how perfectly it's done in this movie. So those would be mine. Uh, yeah, this movie has a huge impact. Like I said, we've already talked about the idea of this movie being the inspiration for what is to set the groundworks for not only the DC films of the later, specifically the Dark Knight trilogy, because of
Mhm.
what this with the animated series all working congruent with one another sets it up, and it also kind of brings legitimate stakes and feeling to not only DC Marvel. I
Mhm.
think this film kind of like characterizes some of the realer moments that Sam Raimi has in Spider-Man even.
Mhm.
Like there are those real human moments in Spider-Man, like even the scene where Aunt May just offers Peter cake in
Mhm.
Spider-Man 2 where it's just like it's those character beats that just like make the character come to life and does ground them in its
Right, it
silliness,
makes you actually
the
care
humanity.
about them. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, my camera's running low on batteries, so
Okay. Then
I wanted to share the movie Whippets.
yes, go for your movie whippets.
Yes, and then we can wrap up with a
Yep.
great debate. Nice. So I think the thing that movie execs should take away. So movie whippets. This is where we talk about the lessons that movie executives and studios should take away, and then the lesson that they probably did take away.
Mhm.
So the one that they should take away is that animation can be used to tell an adult story in a way that honors the original comics
Mm.
or honors the source material. It doesn't have to be a cart. It doesn't have to be for kids if it's animated.
It's crazy
It's
that this movie is PG though. Like
yes,
legit
it is.
crazy. Like that
It
was
is
another of
crazy.
my like questions for my
Hmm.
Mount Rushmore that I ended up eliminating. Like, is this the best PG movie that should be PG-13? And you like look at the list and you're like, it doesn't make the list, but you are still like, how did this movie like the reason it becomes a PG movie is solely because they don't deem animation worthy of being adult, essentially.
Exactly. And we that's still a sentiment that lasts. We heard that happen this year at the Academy Awards, where the three I can't remember what actresses they were, but they came out and basically were like, animation is just something that you throw on for your kids. And it's like, no, you're completely disrespecting this entire art. It's an
Mm,
art form.
yeah.
You can tell any story. Animation's just the way that you tell it.
Mm. What's the lesson they will learn?
The lesson they will learn is that love interests need to be present in superhero movies every time.
It's
The
probably a
the
good lesson because this theme doesn't really get broken until what is the first film that really doesn't have a love interest that's a superhero film? I can't even think of like the first one. It probably would be in the MCU,
hmm
right? No, but a lot of those characters even have love interests.
Yep.
Is it not really till Black Panther? I have to be missing a few
Black
movies before
Panther.
Black
Black
Panther.
Panther has a love
No,
interest.
Black Panther does have a love interest. Yeah,
Yep.
there's so few of them that even like commit to that idea.
hmm
Batman versus Superman definitely does not, for Batman at least. Batman does
Right.
not have a love interest in that because in
hmm
all three of the Nolan films he does. X-Men, like he always has Jean Grey and the
I
character
don't
from
think
the
Shazam does.
yeah, but that's after Batman versus Superman.
Yes, that's true.
But
But
you're right, Shazam doesn't
I
have a
don't think
love
it does.
interest because he's 10.
Yes, he's 10. He's 10. He's 10. But then he turns into like a 30-year-old man.
Yeah, since you
It's not
did
sustainable.
that category, I'll do this one real quick, and it's just only for me. I'll do the movie pairings real quick. If
Hmm.
you like this
We
type of
probably have the
movie,
same ones.
yeah, if you like this type of movie for cast and crew, I said Batman Sub-Zero, which is the pseudo. This is a spin-off of more of the animated series that explores Mr. Freeze's story. I actually find that movie maybe even more emotionally impactful than this movie. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think that's a great one. I didn't have one for genre. My wild card is just because of how many of the same themes these films hit. This idea of wanting vengeance. But in this case, it's a little bit more of revenge, just seeking out something so desperate, something so unfulfilling, but just seeking it out for the rest of your life and kind of being a slave to it. It's a film that came out this year, The Northman, that has a lot of that same idea. So those are my two pairings real quick.
The only other one that I was going to add was Red Sun.
Oh, is that the Superman Red Sun where he lands in Soviet Russia?
He lands in
I
Soviet
have to
Russia.
see that one. I know it's on DC. I know it's on HBO. I haven't seen it yet.
I think it's got the it's animated as well. It's one of those like real stories, I think.
It's a comic book. I've read the comic. I've read Red Sun, the comic. Okay, with that,
just honors the honors comic material.
With that all said, I think it's time, Branson, for our final segment of the show. The Great Debate!
What are you doing with the camera?
Welcome to the Great Debate. You know what this show is? I have a question planned for Branson. Branson has a question planned for me. We're going to duke it out, and we're going to see who has the better answer. Starting this week, Branson.
Okay. My great debate is, I can't remember if I've asked this before. I think I have. In a Joker free-for-all, if you just got all the Jokers into a pit, I think you've
actually asked this.
Have I? Oh, no.
If you haven't, you've asked a similar type question. But let's do it again for exercise.
Okay. Which Joker?
No, you have asked this question. We did it on Joker.
Okay, I thought so.
Okay, switch it to Batman, and we can do it that way.
All right, I like that. Which Batman
would
fare better in an all-out war?
Okay,
the Adam West Batman, the Conroy Batman, Pattinson,
Keaton, Kilmer, Pattinson, Clooney, Affleck.
Who was it in Nolan?
Bale.
Why am I blank? Yeah, Bale. Thank you.
I can't believe I forgot Bale. It almost feels like the correct answer is Affleck, because Affleck's the only one who's had to go up against. I guess that's technically a lie. Kevin Conroy has to go up against them as the shows continue, specifically when they make the Justice League TV show where Kevin Conroy reprises the exact same character from the same universe into that. So it probably has to be Conroy, because again, it's my issue with Affleck is while I like Affleck's portrayal, Affleck isn't an actor I think of when I think smart. Like Affleck, like there's some guys who you believe are smart. And Affleck, that's not when I see a Ben Affleck movie, I don't think like this guy's a genius. Like I like Ben Affleck, but it's just like straight up, like I don't think of him like as the world's greatest detective. Conroy has all those attributes that
it's the gruffness
Affleck does have with the
right balance of gruffness.
Yeah, he has that gruffness. He has this like he's had to fight these bigger, larger than life characters like Darkseid. He's had to do like intergalactic like battles with the superheroes and the Justice League. So he has that also Batman and Affleck has, but again, he has the intelligence of he does feel like he is the world's greatest detective, where a lot of times, while I love the Snyderverse, it does kind of feel like Affleck's kind of just like not the smartest Batman.
I think in terms of armor and gadgets, he's a little bit overpowered.
I see. If we're going armor and gadgets, I'd almost go Bale.
Really?
Just because he has Lucius Fox. And Lucius Fox is kind of able to create whatever he needs him to create.
That's fair.
It's kind of a MacGuffin in those series, is that like Lucas Fox can like just make whatever he needs him to make. You need to spy on the whole Gotham. We have a device that can have you spy on all of Gotham.
How's every CCTV? Yeah, that's a good point. Okay,
who's your answer?
I probably would have said Affleck begrudgingly, just because of like we see the power suit that he faces off against Superman with, and that thing's a big beefy boy. It's like the Iron Man suit for Batman.
Someday Adam West just running around with the bomb over his head.
Yeah,
or like he's carrying like Superman
over giant his head. Bomb.
Some days you can't get rid of a stone of kryptonite.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
I love Adam West.
That's so good.
Love Adam West.
That's so good. That's one of the few things that I loved about Family Guy, where the mayor is Or no, I'm sorry.
Mayor Adam West. No,
yeah, no, that is Family Guy.
It is Family Guy. Mayor Adam West.
Mayor
okay,
Adam
my
West.
question for you, Branson, to end this show.
Mhm.
Who? Sorry, let me rephrase this question. Not who. It would be of all superheroes that you could get an animated spin-off of the character, which one would you choose? And I'm going to just eliminate Spider-Man because he's had Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to eliminate Spider-Verse and I'm going to eliminate Batman, obviously. Everyone else, I feel like, while maybe they've had like direct DVDs or they've had stuff, I don't think there's like a true Superman, like theatrically released, big budget, like film centered around Superman. So all of those to me are fair game.
I'm going to say Deadpool.
They almost had it in the TV format on FX. Donald Glover was supposed to be writing, directing, and starring as Deadpool.
Oh, that would have been really good.
That would have been cool.
Yeah,
he's a good one.
Well, since he's such a cartoonish guy who constantly breaks the fourth wall, that just marries so well with animation. Like, imagine the kind of antics that he could get up to beyond the constraints of reality, even a superhero movie cinematic reality. Oh, my camera just died.
Oh, did it? Oops.
Yeah, I froze. But yeah, that was pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
To me. Okay, that's fine, because my answer is I like the idea and similar idea of what you have, and I'm going to kind of base what you said, but on a different character. I'm going to go Doctor Strange.
That was my second guess. Or
Doctor Strange, like,
my second nomination.
Like, if you do the multiverse stuff with him, where it's just like the idea of like there's basically an infinite amount of stories you can tell. It doesn't have to be in any form of canon. It doesn't have to be tied to the MCU. You could almost just make a Quantum Leap / Doctor Who type style with a Doctor Strange character at the center of it. I think that works in a very fun way, and I think animation allows it to go the craziest and wildest.
I love that idea.
So that was mine, and then that was really my big one, was Doctor Strange. So an honorable mention to Sandman, which will be having its live action debut next week, which I did think, just because of how crazy the concepts of dreams can become in that show. Anyway, that's my answer. Branson, you ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, that's the show.
All right, that's the show. There is no... Oh,
there I am.
There he is.
It's EOS webcam utility.
They turned you into a technology. The robots are taking over.
Peter, don't turn me into iconography of a USB port.
All right.
That's okay,
With that said, there's still no Branson. I'll have to just Photoshop a terrible photo over it.
Yeah, take the last frame that I had before my camera died.
Thank you for being on this show.
Of course.
You'll be back on in, if not 2 weeks, pretty soon. We'll talk off air.
All right.
But
at some point.
We'll be back on a few more times next August, and I have some ideas for you that I'll pitch you off air. Anyway, Branson, you want to sign off real quick?
This has been Ben and Bran See a Movie. Thanks for watching, listening,
and this is
reading the transcript on YouTube and just pausing the video. I don't know, however you consume. Thank you.
And from Ben Friedman, here from Ben and EOS Webcam Utility, See a Movie. I'm Ben Friedman. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to watch these videos all on YouTube. If you've gotten to this, make sure to go on Spotify or however you're listening to us on podcast form. Give us a like and subscribe. The ratings are really helping us out. We have some really exciting guests coming soon that I will be able to announce in the next month or so. With that all said, my name is Ben Friedman. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.